Hey guys, it's Holly. So there's going to be another huge year of Marvel content ahead of us, and there's been some minifigures that I've sort of gone back and looked at that are rumored or confirmed to be appearing in upcoming movies and TV shows, and I've just slowly been accumulating a lot of these figures. Now, fortunately, this year, a lot of these minifigures are still on sale, which wasn't really the case with Spider-Man, and I'm really glad that I bought my Tobey Maguire Spider-Man when I did, because it was $25 when I purchased it, and now it sells for $120. Which is disgusting. So in order to sort of protect my backside, I've been going back and buying a lot of the figures that I feel like I'm probably gonna really want after I see these movies. That way I can sort of save myself some money. I wouldn't quite call this like investing tips with Holly, because there's really no guarantee that any of these minifigures are gonna go up. However, I do want to tell you some figures that I do recommend looking into getting, especially if you're interested, or probably that you should pick up before a lot of these new movies and TV shows come out this year. Now, most of these characters have been confirmed. A couple of them are rumored, but there are no spoilers for any 2022 Marvel content up ahead, besides one What If episode, but I feel like people don't care enough about that show to like worry about spoilers. So here are all the figures. So starting off, we have characters from the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness that I feel like you should get, and of course starting off with the Scarlet Witch herself. Now, it's no surprise that Wanda is going to be in this movie. She's literally featured on the Lego set box even, and she should be pretty easy and pretty cheap to get, given that the Marvel CMF is somewhat still on shelves. I mean, it's pretty hard to find, but it's not currently retired as far as I'm aware, so she should be really cheap and easy to grab. For the most part, her costume is going to be pretty much the same, so I would definitely recommend picking her up. I don't think her value is going to change all too much just yet, considering this set is still on shelves, but even after it's retired, I feel like she could go up quite a bit, so it's probably best to get it now. But also, she wasn't even included in the set, so I feel like you do yourself a favor and buy her alongside the set when you buy it. Another one that I would recommend, especially if you've been looking at it for a while, is the Bricktober pack Wong. Now, since Wong is in the brand new Doctor Strange set, I don't think it's all that essential, considering, you know, we've gotten a version of him now. It's not like this is sort of the only version without a jacket, but if you're like me and you've been looking at him for a while, highly recommend picking him up, because I feel like he's only going to get worse once the movie has come out. He's also an incredibly detailed figure and is gorgeous, but he's also very expensive, so you do sort of have to weigh that up when looking at him. Lastly, from Doctor Strange, I highly recommend getting Karl Mordo. Now, he is a very well-known Doctor Strange villain in the comics, and just judging by that end credit scene, it's no surprise that I feel like he's going to be a big villain in the Multiverse of Madness. You can see him in the trailer, and he was only released in one set, which is the original Doctor Strange Sanctum Sanctorum set, back when that first movie came out in like 2016. Now, currently, luckily, this figure isn't worth too much, and I feel like that's mainly because he hasn't really featured in an awful lot. Now, I've recently placed an order for him. I managed to find one in Australia, so he's on his way to me, and I'm very, very excited. His outfit does look kind of similar to the way it is in the trailers. I feel like it will get an update, but as far as we know, there's not going to be a new version of him anytime soon. So if you're looking at it, I highly recommend picking him up. I feel like out of all of the Doctor Strange characters, he's probably one that could inflate quite a bit. I don't think it's going to be anything too drastic, but it will definitely probably be a bit more expensive once the movies come out. Another one that you could look into getting as well is the Ancient One. I'm personally not overall too fast. I mean, she hasn't really appeared besides in What If and even Endgame, and even then the price of her hasn't gone up too much, so I feel like you're not really in a rush, but it's definitely a character to keep your eye on. Next up is She-Hulk. Now, She-Hulk is probably going to be one of the big Marvel shows of this year. I mean, it's coming up soon, and luckily we already have a minifigure of her, which was already from a very expensive and very desired set from a couple of years ago. Now, I purchased her a couple of months ago, and already she was around $35 to $45, which was very, very expensive, as she was only in that sort of Red Hulk versus Hulk set, which was overpriced to begin with, and people skipped on it, and overall, it just did not have a very, very fun time. So I'm really glad that I picked up She-Hulk when I did, because I'm really excited for the show, and I feel like it's going to be a really good one, and I just know that when that comes out, a lot of people are going to really want the minifigure all of a sudden, so you gotta act now, gotta get in quick. Same goes for Miss Marvel. If you have had your eye on that Miss Marvel figure, now's probably a good time to get it. Originally, I was thinking about getting her. I mean, the minifigure is gorgeous, but considering the price, I really just couldn't pull the trigger on it like I could for She-Hulk, and I'm glad I didn't because there is now a 4+ version in the Spider-Man Junior sets, which personally is the figure that I'm going to go for. I really like that hairpiece, and I mean, I can always swap it out since that hairpiece is cheap, it exists, I've got multiples of them, but also I think the torso still works, the face print's still good. I'm definitely going to switch up the height of the legs though, but overall I'm personally going to lean towards that Miss Marvel figure instead of the older one, but at the end of the day it's up to you. But considering it doesn't look like she's going to have stretching powers, maybe you'd want to pass on that original one. Moving on to Thor Love and Thunder, and something that I would definitely consider getting is, if you haven't already, try and get one of these newer Thor figures, considering it definitely looks like Thor's gonna have that same sort of hairstyle and face print, or at least face style as he does in this figure. Definitely, I think though he'll have a new outfit. You could also go back and see if you can find any of the other Thors if you're really into them. I don't think the price on them will change all too much, but it's definitely something to consider getting before the movie comes out. Same deal with Korg. Luckily, he's still on shelves, and definitely his outfit is going to be far different, but just in general, having the character is a lot of fun, so I would highly recommend looking into him. Same goes for Valkyrie too. If you don't have a version of her, it's probably worth getting, considering it looks like she's shaping up to be a pretty big character in Thor Love and Thunder. Luckily, there's a version available right now with the Tony Stark Sicarian mech, but if you want that sort of original older version, you might not have quite as much luck, but honestly, the outfits aren't too different. I think you should be fine. The next figure I would look into getting is definitely this version of Starlord from the Benatar. I mean, just the Benatar set in general, I feel like that ship could pop up in Thor Love and Thunder. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll have to wait and see. But there have been leaked photos of Chris Pratt on the set for Thor Love and Thunder, and it looks like his outfit's going to be pretty similar. He's definitely going to have a role in the movie, as well as probably even a couple of the other Guardians. Another heavily rumored one, and one that I would look at even more so than Starlord though, is Nebula. Apparently she is slated to appear, and this version of the figure has only appeared like twice. I mean, I've got the version with the scratch torso from the Guardians Volume 2 Milano, but there's also a version of her in her regular outfit, which is even more rare, which came from the original Guardians sets. So if you haven't picked up a Nebula, probably look at her. And even if it's not for Thor Love and Thunder, don't forget the Guardian special is coming out this Christmas. Going back to the Marvel CMF though, if you haven't picked her up already, or she's one of the figures that you skipped over with the CMF, I would recommend looking into getting Thanos as Gamora, considering she should be a character that appears in What If Season 2, since the whole episode with her and the Sicarian mech even, which is a set that you should probably also look at, because that whole episode just got completely scrapped from the first What If season. They sort of featured in the finale, and they will hopefully show that episode in Season 2, which is currently in development at the moment. So if you haven't picked her up, I'd certainly look at getting her. I mean, in general, her hairpiece is a lot better and her face is a lot better than just the other Gamora figures, so that's always a really good thing. I mean, I've personally got multiples of these pieces, so I could upgrade my older Gamoras, but in general, she's a pretty cool figure, and I feel like mostly she kind of got overlooked, to be completely honest. Another movie coming out later this year is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and while unfortunately because of Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther will not be being played by him, I still feel like it's worth looking back specifically at the Civil War Black Panther suit, purely because of that headpiece printing that just hasn't appeared in any other Black Panther. I mean, they went all out back in 2016 for this figure, and I feel like since then it's sort of gone a bit downhill. I personally really like this suit, but it's not essential since there are newer versions of the suit, so you could completely skip this one if you wanted to. More so than that Black Panther suit though, I do recommend getting an Okoye figure, considering she's going to be a really big part of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Now please note that these shoulder pads aren't actually a part of the figure. It is one of the little upgrades that I made to her just because I thought it was a lot more accurate. The actual figure is just the head, torso, and legs, and then comes along with a little spear. I really like this figure, as sort of lacking as she is in the detail, and Okoye is a great character in general, so I highly recommend picking her up. Shuri, I feel like you can somewhat skip, considering she's got quite a lot of good figures out at the moment, and whether or not she will still be a huge part of the movie is kind of up in the air at the moment, so I would sort of skip out on her and maybe just keep looking at Okoye to sort of see what happens with this figure. And lastly, to wrap up the year, we're going to have the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, so I would definitely try and get as many Guardians as you possibly can. I mean, we don't know if Gamora is going to yet be included in the special. I'm going to assume yes, but at the same time, I feel like she's probably the one that you'd least need to look out for. The one that I would try and get definitely, though, is Drax, considering he's only been in 2 sets, especially with the Benatar. Like, people want a lot of the Guardians. He's going to show up. I feel like he's going to become extremely hard to find at that point, so I definitely look for him. Even like one of the older Groots you could probably look for, but then again, this newer one does exist, so it's not quite as essential. And then Rocket and Mantis both came in the Benatar, so I feel like you shouldn't have to rush for them, but I would highly recommend trying to get all of the Guardians. So those are all of the figures that I recommend getting in 2022 for Marvel content, just so that you sort of don't get bit in the butt and surprised when all of these figures suddenly shoot up in value. I feel like the Doctor Strange ones especially are probably going to be the worst culprits, or maybe the Guardians of the Galaxy. Everything else seems very recent and sort of very common these days, so you should hopefully be okay. Let me know in the comments which of these figures you plan on buying or which ones you've already got, and if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. Happy hunting everyone, and I will see you later.